I used to think Eren was obviously the villain. Like, genocide feels pretty straightforward, right? But then I rewatched Attack on Titan. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And honestly, the older I get, the less simple this story becomes. Because Attack on Titan does something particularly unique and rather dangerous. It forces you to emotionally understand someone you morally disagree with. And once the story manages to do that, things start to become uncomfortable. Because Eren isn't some cartoon villain sitting in a dark room plotting evil. He's a scared kid who grew up in a world that taught him violence was the only thing that actually worked. And honestly, a lot of people watching probably would have bended up exactly like him, maybe even myself. I think the reason people connect with Eren so much is because his pain feels human. The first episode completely destroys this kid. His home collapses, the military fails, and he watches his mother die while he's too weak to prevent it. And I genuinely think that moment breaks something inside of him forever. Because after that, Eren never really learns how to process grief normally. He turns it into anger, into obsession, into movement. That's why I think, as a character, Eren is always moving forward. If he stops, he has to actually feel everything. And honestly, this is where I think people can start to relate. Not the genocide part, hopefully, but the throwing yourself into purpose so you don't have to think part. Thomas Hobbes, who believed human beings are mostly driven by one thing: fear. Specifically, the fear of violent death. And Hobbes argued that when survival is threatened, morality starts collapsing. Security becomes more important than ethics, which honestly describes Attack on Titan's world perfectly. Because from Eren's perspective, the outside world already chose violence first. His behaviour is merely retaliation. Marley wanted Paradise gone, the world hated Eldians for who they were, and peace begins to look impossible. So Eren, reaching the conclusion the series has been building toward the entire time. If the world wants us dead, destroy the world first. And the scary part is that we, the viewers, begin to emotionally understand how he got there. One of my favourite scenes has to be the ocean scene, because for years, reaching the ocean was supposed to mean freedom. It represented the final stage of Eren's progression. Armin's happy. Everyone's overwhelmed. It feels hopeful for a brief 5 seconds. And then Eren says, if we kill all our enemies over there, will we finally be free? That line completely shifts the story, because whilst everyone sees the ocean, Eren simply sees another wall. And personally, that's what makes him tragic. Even when he reaches freedom, he psychologically fails to experience it. There's always another enemy, another threat, another reason to keep fighting. Utilitarianism. John Stuart Mill argued that morality should be judged by outcomes, the greatest good for the greatest number. And from Eren's perspective, the math becomes horrifyingly simple. Destroy the outside world, save Paradise. And here's the dangerous part. Human beings are very good at justifying horrible things when it comes to protecting people they love. That's why Eren feels realistic, because history is full of people who believed violence was necessary for survival. The problem is, therefore, once you reduce human lives to numbers alone, atrocities become easier to justify. He is aware, he is conscious, and knows what he is doing is evil. And yet, he keeps moving forward anyway. Nietzsche, who talked about humanity's desire to overcome weakness, to force meaning onto the world, the will to do, as Nietzsche called it, and Eren becomes obsessed with that idea of freedom. But eventually, his pursuit of freedom destroys everything: friendship, innocent lives, and eventually himself. So, whilst I don't think you could say Eren was justified in the true sense of the word, pretending we could never become someone like him is most likely naive. That's what makes him such an incredible character. Because he forces people to confront uncomfortable parts of themselves. Fear, hatred, tribalism, perhaps the desire to protect the people we love at any cost. And maybe that's the real horror of Attack on Titan. Not the Titans, not the rumbling, but how easy it is for human beings to justify cruelty when survival is on the line. So, was Eren justified?
Nope.
But I understand, perhaps, why he thought he was, and I sympathise with the character. And I think that's the beauty of Attack on Titan, is that I can sympathise with a genocidal maniac